My wife cheated with my best friend and tried to pass his baby as mine. My ultimate revenge left them speechless. Hey Reddit, let me start by saying this is the hardest thing I've ever had to share. My wife and I had been married for 5 years, and I genuinely thought we were happy. She was my high school sweetheart, the woman I had imagined spending the rest of my life with. Together, we had built what I thought was a rock-solid relationship based on love, laughter, and trust. But as they say, sometimes the ones closest to you are the ones holding the sharpest knives. Enters Jake. Jake was my best friend, practically my brother. We met in college and bonded instantly over sports, late-night gaming sessions, and endless debates about movies. He was my go-to guy for everything. I even trusted him enough to make him my best man at our wedding. He was family, or at least I thought so. The first crack in my seemingly perfect world came about a year ago. My wife started acting off. She was suddenly spending a lot more time on her phone, giggling at texts and taking work trips that didn't make much sense. At first, I dismissed it as paranoia. I mean, she's my wife, right? She wouldn't betray me. But the signs became harder to ignore. She'd come home late, smelling like cologne that wasn't mine. Her excuses grew weaker, and the intimacy between us disappeared. Still, I wanted to believe in her, in us. Until one day, I saw the text that shattered everything. It was from Jake, and it said, "I can't wait to see you again tonight." Last night was amazing. My hands were shaking as I read those words. I confronted her immediately, but she was a master manipulator. She gaslit me, called me insecure, and accused me of not trusting her. I almost believed her. But deep down, I knew. I started piecing things together. I installed a GPS tracker on her car, checked her credit card bills, and even followed her a couple of times. That's when I caught them together at a hotel. Seeing them laughing and holding hands broke me in ways I can't even describe. Then came the bombshell. My wife announced she was pregnant. She looked so happy when she told me, and for a brief moment, I felt happy too. But the timelines didn't add up. Something felt off. I secretly did a paternity test, and my worst fears were confirmed. The baby wasn't mine. It was Jake's. I was devastated. I couldn't eat, sleep, or focus on anything. But instead of confronting them right away, I decided to play it smart. I needed a plan, and I wanted to hit them where it would hurt the most. First, I started acting like nothing was wrong. I went to doctor's appointments, pretended to be excited about the baby, and even hosted a gender reveal party. All the while, I was gathering evidence. I collected text messages, photos, and every piece of proof I could find. Then came the baby shower, the perfect stage for my revenge. With all our friends and family gathered, I stood up to give a toast. I talked about love, loyalty, and betrayal. Everyone was smiling, thinking I was about to say something beautiful. That's when I dropped the bombshell. I revealed everything: the affair, the paternity test, the lies. My wife's face turned pale, and Jake looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. But I wasn't done. I pulled out a folder with all the evidence and handed it to her parents, who had always loved me like their own son. The fallout was immediate. My wife begged for forgiveness, saying it was a mistake. Jake tried to justify it, saying it just happened and that he didn't mean to hurt me. But I wasn't listening. I walked out of that party and never looked back. Nee filed for divorce the next day and made sure my prenup left her with nothing. I also worked with her family to ensure Jake was held financially responsible for the child. But Reddit, here's where things get interesting. Jake and my wife tried to keep their relationship going after the truth came out. They thought they could make it work, but cracks were already forming. Friends turned against them, and their reputations were in shambles. Meanwhile, I started living my best life. And just when I thought it was over, I discovered something even darker about Jake, something that could ruin him completely. But that's a story for another update. Stay tuned. So, Reddit, what do you think so far? Did I handle it well, or should I have done something differently? Let me know. Update. Hey Reddit, thanks for the overwhelming support and responses to my story. It feels good knowing I'm not alone in this, and some of your suggestions have been truly empowering. So, here's the first update on how things unfolded after the bombshell baby shower. After I exposed the affair and walked out, the chaos I left behind rippled through everyone's lives. My wife, soon-to-be ex, tried every trick in the book to get me back. She called, texted, and even showed up at my office crying about how she made a mistake and wanted to fix things. She swore the affair was over, claimed Jake manipulated her, and begged for another chance. I didn't buy a word of it. Meanwhile, Jake was facing his own consequences. Our mutual friends were furious when they found out what he did, and one by one, they cut him off. He was basically exiled from our friend group, and even his coworkers got wind of what happened. I heard through the grapevine that his boss wasn't thrilled about the bad press, and his career took a hit. As for me, I stayed focused on moving forward. The divorce process began, and thanks to the ironclad prenup, she wasn't entitled to a dime of my money. The lawyer also suggested that I pursue a claim for emotional damages, which I'm seriously considering. But here's where it gets interesting. I discovered something else about Jake that shook me to my core. A friend who worked in the same company as him reached out and told me Jake was caught embezzling funds from work. Apparently, he'd been skimming money from clients for years, and now his company was building a case against him. The timing couldn't have been better. I decided to keep this in my back pocket for later. For now, I'm focusing on rebuilding my life. I've started therapy to process everything, and it's been a game changer. I also reconnected with old friends who reminded me of my worth. Life isn't perfect, but for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm taking control. Stay tuned, Reddit. The next part of this story involves a confrontation I never saw coming. Another update. Hey Reddit, I'm back with the next chapter of this wild ride. If you thought the baby shower was dramatic, just wait until you hear what happened next. A few weeks after the baby shower, I got an unexpected knock on my door. It was Jake. He looked like a mess, unkempt, exhausted, and desperate. At first, I wanted to slam the door in his face, but curiosity got the better of me. I let him in, but only to hear what he had to say. Jake claimed he was sorry. He said the affair was a mistake, that he never meant to hurt me, and that he missed our friendship. He even tried to blame my wife, saying she pursued him aggressively and he couldn't resist. It was laughable. I listened patiently, and when he was done, I dropped the bombshell I'd been holding on to. I knew about his embezzlement. The look on his face was priceless. He started stammering, trying to deny it, but I showed him the proof my friend had given me. I made it clear that I wasn't going to report him, yet. Instead, I gave him an ultimatum. He had to pay child support for the baby and take full financial responsibility. He had to publicly apologize to me and everyone he hurt. He needed to stay out of my life permanently. Jake agreed to everything. I think the fear of prison was enough to keep him in line. I didn't do this for revenge, I did it to protect myself and make sure he couldn't hurt anyone else. As for my wife, she tried to worm her way back into my life again. She sent me a long email about how Jake was a mistake and that she wanted to work on our marriage. I didn't bother responding. Instead, I forwarded the email to her parents, who were still furious with her. Let them deal with her drama. The divorce is moving forward smoothly, and I've started dating again. It's scary putting myself out there, but I'm taking it slow. One thing's for sure, I've learned to trust actions, not words. But there's one final twist to this story, Reddit. I recently discovered something that could completely destroy both Jake and my ex-wife. I'm not sure if I want to use it, but if I do, it'll be the ultimate revenge. Stay tuned for the finale. Final update. Hey Reddit, this is the final update to my story, and trust me, it's a good one. Buckle up. After my last update, I debated whether to use the information I had about Jake and my ex-wife. On one hand, I wanted to move on and let karma do its thing. On the other hand, they'd caused me so much pain that part of me wanted to make sure they never hurt anyone else. Here's what I discovered. Jake and my ex-wife had been planning to start a business together, a small event planning company. It sounded innocent enough, but when I dug deeper, I found out they were using funds Jake had embezzled from his company to finance it. If this got out, it wouldn't just ruin their business, it could land them both in serious legal trouble. I decided to act, but not in a way that would directly implicate me. I anonymously sent the evidence to Jake's company and the IRS. I included everything: bank statements, email correspondences, and proof of the stolen funds. Then, I sat back and waited. A few weeks later, the fallout began. Jake's company pressed charges against him for embezzlement, and the IRS launched an investigation into both him and my ex-wife. Their business plans crumbled before they even started, and they were left scrambling to pick up the pieces. But here's the kicker: Jake ended up serving time for his crimes. My ex-wife, while not charged, was left with a mountain of legal fees and a ruined reputation. She tried to reach out to me one last time, saying she had no idea about Jake's illegal activities. I ignored her. As for me, life is finally looking up. The divorce is finalized, and I'm officially free. I've met someone new, someone kind, honest, and completely different from my ex. It's early days, but I'm hopeful. Looking back, I realized that revenge wasn't the most important part of this journey. It was about reclaiming my power and learning to value myself again. Jake and my ex got what they deserved, but more importantly, I got my life back. So, Reddit, thank you for being there for me during the darkest chapter of my life. I couldn't have done it without your support. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this: never settle for anything less than you deserve. And with that, I'm signing off. Stay strong, Reddit. You're worth it.